camouflaging the warships with psychedelic paint jobs.
Throughout world history, camouflage has been used to prevent an enemy from noticing a hidden object. A tank can camouflage itself among trees and the surrounding terrain. A submarine can lurk beneath the waves and it's by default hidden. But what about camouflaging a ship? Dazzle camouflage, also known as Dazzle or Dazzle painting, was a military camouflage paint scheme used on ships extensively during World War I and to a lesser extent in World War II. The idea is credited to the British artist Norman Wilkinson, who came with this idea in 1917, a time when German U-boat attacks on British ships seemed unstoppable. Norman Wilkinson recalls, "I suddenly got the idea that since it was impossible to paint a ship so that she could not be seen by a submarine, the extreme opposite was the answer. In other words, to paint her, not for low visibility, but in such a way as to break up her form and thus confuse a submarine officer as to the course on which she was heading." Thus Dazzle camouflage, bold stripes, curves, and zigzags in colors like black, white, blue, fuchsia, and green, was born. The design consists of complex patterns of geometric shapes in contrasting colors, interrupting and intersecting each other. Unlike other forms of camouflage, the intention of Dazzle is not to conceal but to make it difficult to estimate a target's range, speed, and heading. Norman Wilkinson explained in 1919 that he had intended Dazzle primarily to mislead the enemy about a ship's course and so cause them to take up a poor firing position. In other words, Wilkinson's idea was to dazzle the gunner so that he would either be unable to take the shot with any confidence or spoil it if he did. The shot had to only be 8 to 10 degrees off for the torpedo to miss. And even if the ship was hot, if the torpedo didn't hit the most vital part, that would be better than being hit directly. Curves painted across the side of the ship could create a false bow wave, for example, making the ship seem smaller or imply that it was heading in a different direction. Patterns disrupting the line of the bow or stern made it hard to tell which was the front or back, where the ship actually ended, or even whether it was one vessel or two, and angled stripes on the smokestacks could make the ship seem as if it was facing in the opposite direction. The system did have its limitations. It could only be applied to ships that would be targeted by periscopes, because it worked best when seen from the low-down viewpoint of a U-boat gunner. The first ship to be dazzled was a small store ship called the HMS Industry. When it was launched in May 1917, Coast Guards and other ships sailing the British coast were asked to report their observations of the vessel when they encountered it. Dazzle ships had been attacked in 1.47% of sailings, compared to 1.12% for uncamouflaged ships, suggesting increased visibility. But as Wilkinson had argued, Dazzle was not attempting to make ships hard to see. Suggestively, of the ships that were struck by torpedoes, 43% of the Dazzle ships sank, compared to 54% of the uncamouflaged, and similarly, 41% of the Dazzle ships were struck amidships, compared to 52% of the uncamouflaged. These comparisons could be taken to imply that submarine commanders did have more difficulty in deciding where a ship was heading and where to aim.